Welcome to the Generative Age,
a podcast that explores the rapidly evolving world of generative AI and its impact on education.
Guided by EdTech Director, author, and NYSCATE board member Alana Winnick. We are joined by experts and practitioners in the field who are shaping the discourse of artificial intelligence in the classroom.
Whether you're an educator, administrator, technology leader, or simply interested in the future of education, join us on this journey through the Generative Age, powered by NYSCATE. Welcome back to another episode of the Generative Age. My apologies for taking a little bit of a short break. Something I always say to all my teachers and students is you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I've been living by that myself. And someone also recently said to me that you're juggling so many balls in your life and you have to recognize which ones are glass balls and which ones are plastic balls and which ones you can drop. So unfortunately, the podcast had been something that I had dropped over the past few months, but I'm very excited to be back and be here with you today and bring you some more content. And it's a most perfect time because we're leading up to the NYSCATE Annual Conference. So with this episode I'm releasing is actually a recording of the Generative Age panel that we had last year at NYSCATE, so it felt like a very fitting time to release this leading up to the annual conference this year. I will be interviewing some really exciting guests at the conference, so I'm looking forward to releasing that for you as well. And that's all I have for you for now. And if you're at NYSCATE, I really hope to see you there. Now let's get to it and check out last year's panel. I'm just going to hand it over because they have something planned. So we'll start with you, Tom.
All right, good morning, good morning. You guys enjoying NYSCATE, by the way? 3 of you are? That's great. That's awesome. It's awesome to be here with you this morning. So one of us played Division I football. One of us has been a professional model. I'm neither one of those. I'm Tom Murray. I thought that was funny. You didn't, but that's all right. In my day job, I'm the Director of Innovation for Future Ready Schools. I get to speak around the country, also an author, and hang with amazing people like you from around the country, and it's a complete honor to be with you all. I'm also a New Yorker. I grew up in Orange County, even though I now work out of D.C., so it's awesome to be back in my home state of New York.
And I'm Carl Hooker, and I want you to guess which one is me. Crickets. Neither as well. That is correct. I'm neither a model or a former football player, but I'm Carl Hooker from Austin, Texas. I am a bar owner, which, yeah, thank you. The one, hey, there we go. A couple of woos in the crowd. 26-year educator, 8-time author, 5-time podcast host, 3-time father, 1-time husband. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I feel like, what's that? Remember that game show where you had to guess who was the actual real person?
What's my line, or who's? Yeah.
No, do y'all remember that by any chance? They had 3 people up and they all had said they had the same name, and you asked them questions. You had to guess who was actually the real one.
I don't remember.
I'm a little bit older than I guess.
Sorry.
All right. Well,
Which one of you out there is older than 50? No.
yeah, which one of us? Anyway, good morning. I'm Ken Shelton. I'm sure I recognize a few faces through the spotlight here, so it's good to see y'all again. I'm looking forward to our panel.
And it wouldn't be a Generative Age panel without a little twist and surprise. So I really value diversity of all kinds, thought, and all of these things. So you think it's the 3 of you, but it's not, because we have surprise guests. We have someone who's not in the tech space. She'll introduce herself. They're bringing chairs. They're bringing chairs. Oh, okay. And a student. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves right now. So
Awesome.
Sure.
There we go. There we go. A teacher and a student. Come on.
Well, she's not a teacher anymore.
I was a teacher.
She was.
I am an assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, and I was an English teacher and a principal, and I'm really excited to be here. Hi.
No tech background. 0 background in tech, right?
0, except for, basic, everybody background.
Hi, everyone. I'm Soham. I'm a current high school senior based out of North New Jersey, and I work on student advocacy for AI in education and innovation. I work a lot with Ms. Winnick for an organization called Students for Innovation that tries to achieve that goal.
I'd like to yield the rest of my time to that gentleman down there.
I love that he's a one-name superstar already. Look at it. Soham.
He's only 17. Once he turns 18, we can legally use his name.
Oh.
Right?
That's the whole situation.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, not really. It's my rule. I just feel like I don't do that in my district, at Law 2D kinds of things. He's in New Jersey. There's different laws, but we're in New York, so. He will be doing a TED Talk during the lunchtime keynote. So if you are not familiar with the generative age, it is a podcast powered by NYSCATE, and 2 people on the panel have already been on it, and we have some fresh new faces this time. So if you hear something you like, you might want to go deeper into an episode of the content, because we've had content on almost all of these episodes. So here are the rules. Each of them has an envelope in front of them filled with 6 cards. Each card equals 1 minute. If they want to use a card, they don't have to use a card. They will hand me a card to buy them 1 minute of talk time. There are 5 questions. They have 6 cards. We want a little heated debate. Here's the catch. You guys are going to vote on the best answer. So you're going to have to pull out your phones. There's going to be QR codes. And you're going to vote on the best answer. And they're going to get points based on what you think is the best answer. And one of them is going to win a prize. I have a prize backstage, and I'll bring it out. So 1 card, 1 minute, and you guys are going to vote on the best response. They got their questions last night.
Alana, I'm having flashbacks to Billy Madison. I'm just saying from...
So here is the first question. And last time I gave you guys an order. Whoever wants to answer can hand me their card first. Academic integrity. Many teachers are concerned that students will use AI to cheat. We know that AI detectors don't work, and that if a student wants to cheat, they will always find a way. How can we transform education to encourage students to not only maintain integrity, but to motivate them to complete their work honestly? Ken, you want to go first? Alyssa, you want to go first, Alyssa?
Sure.
Okay, hold on, let me start the timer.
So to me, cheating is an age-old problem, and it's a result of disengagement. So kids are cheating because they just want their work to be done. And as soon as their work is done, they can check off that box. And that's because kids are obsessed with grades. And grades are supposed to be feedback, but instead they become compliance, completion-oriented, kind of like end game. So it takes any emphasis off of the actual learning process. So in this instance, we've got kids obsessed with grades. Where does that come from? Adults are obsessed with grades. Adults use grades as, leveraging capacity in classrooms to motivate kids. If the shift leaves grades and goes over to learning and the process of engagement in the learning, it doesn't matter what tool they're using to quote-unquote cheat, because they'll actually be focusing on learning and gathering information rather than completion and compliance and submission.
Time's up. Perfect. Ken?
All right, so I've got it opened up. I literally wrote about this in my book. So to share with you all a couple of things, I always find it troublesome when I do AI workshops and I ask people to define cheating, because I watch how people struggle defining it. And my whole thing is it's questionable and problematic to label something a thing if you can't define what that thing is. But what's more important, I think, is we have to start to reframe the use of that word and that label. I'm just going to go through a few, because what I always say to students, I used to always say even to my students, is if you're engaging in a behavior that is often described as cheating, what I want you to think about is how might what you're doing compromise your learning or be detrimental to your learning. And to the point Alyssa just brought up, as adults, I have a long bulleted list in my book, but I'm just going to read a few and ask yourself, is this a condition that is likely to lead to a student or a learner engaging in a behavior that may compromise their learning? High stakes testing, where a disproportionately higher percentage of your grade is factored based on the test.
Time's up. That's not a minute. Yep. You want another minute?
All right, there.
Oh, he's always paying for more.
Make it a mini keynote. Hand her all 6.
More.
Give
Thank
her all
you.
6. Mini keynote.
All right, so high stakes testing, where a high percentage of your grade is factored based on the test. Timed assessments, grading on a curve, assignments that are not ongoing or diagnostic, reconstructed hierarchies that reinforce power dynamics, little to no personalization, prioritization of competition over cooperation, a lack of culturally relevant or responsive approach to learning, a lack of intentionality for true equity, negative approach to failure, learner disenfranchisement, prioritization of process over action-oriented learning. All of those things can lead, all those conditions can lead to a learner saying, I need to do something else because there's some situation that's occurring that is essentially creating barriers towards me either accomplishing a task or demonstrating my knowledge and understanding of something.
Soham wants to go. Let's hear the student's perspective.
So I just want to provide a little bit of insight into what I've seen as a student and what other students may be thinking about. I think there's a really great line I've read that around 20, 30 years ago, the average state for the average student was boredom. And what I want to say is that the average state for the average student right now is most likely anxiety. And what that means for academic integrity is that when you have a curriculum that's so infused with what I would call busy work, or work that does not lead and does not cause actual learning and learning for learning's sake, students are not competing to actually learn. They're trying to just get that work done. And what I want to frame that in is that if we continue this process of busy work, we are making it extremely hard for our students to become true learners and learn for learning's sake. Thank you.
Time's up. Good job. Carl wants to go.
Yep. We know who's going to win. He's got applause already. Okay. Let me ask the audience this question. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you consider when someone hires a tutor cheating? No? Yes? No? How many of you consider when a parent helps a student cheating? Yes? No? No? How many of you consider when you write an email and the last few words are typed for you by Google, is that cheating? This is the problem we're running into. And the other problem we run into is an equity issue because some people, not every student in your school, has access to a tutor or access to a supportive parent that can help them. But when we take away tools that give them that access, we've now created inequities within our school. So for me, it becomes more than just about cheating, but piggybacking on what they've all said, we have to make sure that every kid has an opportunity to have access to learning. And we're saying, because we're worried about this one thing that we can't even define, as Ken just said, we're going to take it away and now cause inequities within our school. And I have 7 seconds left, which I will concede to Ms. Murray. Thank you. He stood up at the back. Yes.
Alyssa's using a card, another card. Go ahead.
So we all know, and it's been...
Oh, that's not you. That was so hard.
Time's up.
Okay.
Oh.
We all know that our kids are going to be entering a skill-based workforce, right? A lot of us engage in a knowledge-based workforce, and that's shifting, and that's a good thing. And for me, as someone who's a mom and been a principal and often like the disciplinarian, what we define as cheating is often kids being really resourceful, using resources to their advantage, learning in some way that perhaps the classroom did not provide for them. So it's going to require a paradigm shift in the adults. So for me, adults obsessing about the idea of cheating are not thinking about skillful interaction with content. They're thinking about completion and grades. And I know I mentioned it in my first response, but grades to me are the impetus for all of the problematic nature of this. Grades should just be feedback.
So go ahead and vote on who you think gave the best response.
And if I get any votes, I'm going to question the voting process. Just throwing that out there.
We still
If
have
Tom wins, we know it's rigged.
Like to check the voting machines, the voting
We were
machines?
just saying we could have spent the whole
Yeah, we
time on
could have
that
spent the
topic
whole-
almost, right? Because I feel like there's so many other pathways we could go down. And again, the teachers out there that are in the audience are going, yeah, that sounds great, but how do I stop it from happening in my room? It goes back to everything that you were just saying, Alyssa, that kind of idea of tying it in. By the way, I'm using overtime for more votes now.
By the way, he owes an extra card, just saying.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're already voting now, so.
Alana, in all seriousness, I'm not going to add to that because I think they've covered a lot of what I would say, and I'd rather save the time for other questions.
Okay, let's look at the responses. Soham first, Alyssa second, Ken third. Okay, so let's award the points. So Ken gets 1, Alyssa gets 2, Soham gets 3. Good job, Soham.
I'd like to thank those that voted for me, even though I did not answer
Look,
the
he's
question.
in third place. He just moved up to third place. How many times did you vote?
Okay, next question. Next question. AI chatbots can help students navigate difficult conversations and provide support, but there's a blurry line when they're treated as more than tools. Given the risks and benefits, Do you believe students should use AI for emotional support, and how do we teach them to engage safely and critically? Let me just start the timer on here so I could be fair and everyone can see it. Here, pass the card.
I have my stopwatch here too.
Okay, so we can all...
I will maintain integrity of the panel by staying within a minute. All right. Okay, so anthropomorphizing. First, let me share with you all what that is. And that is a condition where a user on a computer is having, for example, a chat, and they lose consciousness that they're not actually chatting with another human being. Okay? Now, where is that dangerous? I'm seeing it over and over and over again where many of the vendors, several, and companies are trying to take what's critical in education, that is human interaction, and automate it into an AI system. And the biggest problem I have with that is twofold. One, they never address this here. And then two, keep in mind, AI data systems, the data sets are the limitations of the system. And you cannot build into an automated system a human response. There's a reason why therapy, you don't go to a computer for therapy, we go to another human being for it. So this is something that we all collectively need to start to heavily interrogate and push back on, because this is the next AI thing that's being pushed out towards us.
Alyssa.
So last night I won Ken's book, and I got home and I read the entire book. And it was incredible.
Oh, thank you.
And I bought it for my whole admin team. So shout out, I'm using seconds to love on Ken. But I think for this question, you know, I've been in therapy for most of my life. And one of the most powerful parts about therapy is when your therapist calls you out, disagrees with you, pushes you. That's what social workers do. That's what psychologists do in schools. They see kids, they know them. They know behaviors, communication. They know what those behaviors are communicating. And AI can't do that, and the AI is often so biased, you know, and that's not going to honor the experiences of the kid. We have to teach the kid, this is a tool, just like any other tool, but it's a tool for humans. It doesn't replace humans.
So I was part of a conversation recently on this exact topic, and I was listening to it, and I would try to hear all sides of things. And somebody started diving into, well, you know, say a student's using a device and they're feeling really stressed about it. The chatbot could then help them with, hey, it's probably some time if you're feeling stressed to use some breathing exercises. Let's go ahead and do that. And I started processing it. I'm thinking like, well, all right. And so there's somebody in my family that really is struggling with some significant mental health issues. And then I asked myself, if it was that person, is that what I would want? And my response was, hell no. It's the human side. And so I will say, like, is there feasibility on a very low-hanging fruit end of some, maybe you should try some breathing exercise, maybe as an idea generator, but when I put it, hey, that's my child sitting there, I'm like, I don't want that, I want a human, right? And Ken and I do a session on humanizing AI in education, and the one thing it can't do is be that therapist. As well as we could train it, whatever that corpus could be, as well we might be able to train it, I still want a person with my loved ones in those environments. So if that's what I want for my own children and family, that's what I want for others.
I'm going to reframe this question in the context of students and education real quick. I think there are two different ideas of what anthropomorphizing could be. One is as general mental health support for adults. And I'm not going to comment on that because that's being disputed right now in academia and in research. But from a student perspective, I'm very much against student support mental health chatbots in a school environment, because even this year, we've already seen deaths from students, student deaths, as a result of a student treating a chatbot as a friend or as an emotional support partner. So I truly believe that no matter what we do when it comes to individuals who are mature, whose brains are developed, for students and individuals who are still developing, the human connection is still incredibly relevant.
That was a student.
Yeah.
You loved your answer.
All right. Every wrestling match needs a heel. So I'm going to disagree with all of them. And I'm going to say this. Oh, wait, my timer went off, so you're going to have to trust. Are you timing me? I think it has potential, but with guidelines. So in some ways I am agreeing. But I also think that not every kid, just like tutors, have access to therapists. So if there's a way that it can be done correctly, where it's an alert system to get to the human intervention, and I'm going to give you an extremely personal example of this because my 13-year-old just had this happen to her 6 months ago. And I've not shared this with anybody, but she wrote something on her Google Doc about self-hate, and an alert came through and got to a counselor, which got to me, which got her to therapy. And if that AI had not picked that up, how much of that have been hidden? And how would I have known as a father? She hid it extremely well. I think there's potential, but I do agree with the panelists that it can't be everything. But there's something there, and I think we can use it to leverage in a way that'll help us. I know I have 10 more seconds, but I'm going to start crying, so I don't want to.
Anyone want to follow that?
Nope. Please don't clap that. Don't clap that either.
Cast your votes.
I feel like AI should vote on this too. No.
I know, right?
They probably are. That's true. There's some bots in the audience, I'm sure.
Carl, Soham, Alyssa.
Early voting.
Yeah. Alyssa
10%
gets
reporting.
1.
Let's count it.
Soham gets 2. Carl gets 3.
There's only one person I want to beat, and his name is Tom, so that's okay. Right now we're doing okay.
The next question is about bias and discrimination. Speaking of accountability, we know there is bias in AI training data. How can educators and students minimize bias and discrimination in AI outputs? Everyone wants you to go, I think. They're all waiting for you. Okay.
So
She's actually very passionate about this. I wanted to connect you yesterday, but I actually held off till today, right, Alyssa? We secretly held off till today. She does, but she does a lot of DEI work.
This is the most common thing that I do consulting work on, but I think a lot of the humans that I know are really hesitant or nervous, anxious to name and honor their own biases, right? It's really slippery. It's dangerous to people, even though it's imperative and crucial. We all have to know our biases, whether they're subconscious or explicit. And that makes it really connected to how we teach. You need to know your own biases to know how you teach. So I think that lives just as fervently in AI work. And we have to understand, which Ken has taught me, that the AI we're interacting with has biases because it's been programmed and interacted with by humans. So I think it's a powerful entry point for us because a lot of folks in education aren't willing or able yet to name their own. And once they can recognize them in AI, they might be able to recognize them in themselves in a safer way.
So I'm going to give my card to Ken, and I'm very serious here because I can go into my thoughts, but as one of my best friends that has done deeper work here than I have, I'm going to give my second minute to him so he can spend some extra time.
You could actually, you might want it. It's going to get crazy later. Okay. 2 minutes? You get 2 minutes.
You got 2 minutes?
Okay, thank you, Tom.
That feels like
appreciate
cheating.
it. All right, so let's do a quick thought experiment with you all. When I say CEO, what's the first image that pops in your head? Most likely male, most likely white, cis hetero. That is exactly what's automated in AI systems. Very easy to spot in an image generator. Now, and it's a funny experiment I do with my friends, whatever the platform is I always say, they tell me an AI platform they love, and I always make a deal with them. I said, I bet you I can break it in less than 10 seconds, okay? Let me give you all another example. When I go into an LLM and I say, I want you to give me a list of the causes of the Civil War. Anyone want to guess what the automatic response is? It's the US Civil War. It assumes that. So that's now 2 different types of biases. A friend of mine was using a platform, it's like, no, this one is safe, this one is safe. Really? Watch this. Went into another platform, generate an image of a teenager with an ankle monitor. Take a guess of what the image was. The teenager looks just like me. The whole idea, to point out, to share with what Alyssa just mentioned, all of these are humanly constructed systems. Algorithms are not some sentient thing on its own. They are designed by a human. Those humans carry biases. Let me be clear, not all biases are a negative. But the whole idea is, are you consciously aware of the perspective you have, the life you've lived, and the proximity you spent with others that don't share the same thoughts, opinions, or experiences with you, because that creates myopia. It is automated in these systems. And the problem with this is that it is so deeply embedded in the systems that we either don't see it unless we're consciously aware of it, which is why, thanks to Tom, I push for it big time. But then there's also a whole thing with the designers of these platforms that they don't do the following thing. They don't do algorithmic bias and data weighting, and they don't do data cleansing. And so these things are going to show up in many of our systems, and we have to acknowledge that it is there. And I'm going to say this one last thing, because this is something that really is starting to, it's starting to boil my pot. There are a lot of speakers that talk about AI, and what they do is they will mention bias as a throwaway comment. Oh, well, check for the bias, and then they move on. And that is blatantly and irresponsible, and quite frankly, it is an obtuse perspective on AI.
And Ken and I are doing a session, and I'm sure he's going to go deeper into that at, I don't know, what time is it? 12, at 12. So right here at 12. Anyone else? Want to go?
I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was just said, completely agree. I do want to frame one idea, though, is that a lot of the bias that exists in large language models comes from human-created content on the internet. And what that means is, to a certain extent, the bias of the large language model is the collective bias of a lot of people in the entire world. So it's very hard to try to prompt that bias out of the model, because the model itself exists by feeding on so much information from parts of the internet. And what I want to frame the solution to bias is just try not to use large language models as a generative tool. Try to use large language models as a transformational tool. Always input your own information and use a large language model to transform the medium at which you're using information. So input unstructured text, turn it into structured text, turn it into images. Start with your information first. That way, it's your bias, not the model's bias.
This kid is pretty awesome, isn't he? Yeah, really. Does anyone want to go or no? Not touching it? Okay.
I could, but I don't want to save my, oh, Carl's giving me a card. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Everyone loves Carl. I mean, Ken. Everyone loves Ken.
I appreciate that.
Not you, Carl.
Not me.
No one loves you.
So
I love you, Carl.
to bolster some of what Soham just shared, there's a couple of rules of thumb that I want to share with y'all with this. So number one, it's understanding, and I bring this up all the time, it's understanding how AI systems work. When you hear artificial intelligence, my encouragement to all of you is to ask someone, what type of AI are we talking about? Number one. Number two, what are the ways we can mitigate? So first of all, yes, even if you put your own information in there, that helps, but it cannot overcome algorithmic bias and data weighting. It helps. So that's one part. Another part that will help, and this is my general rule of thumb, and I bring it up in my book all the time, more context equals better output. The more context. So if I go back to CEO, for example, if I want to generate an image, I literally would type in, generate an image of a black female CEO who graduated first from Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania. Her focus area, her primary area of strength is in marketing. She's wearing a three-piece suit. Her hair is styled in a certain way. She has these certain kind of shoes. You all see, when I do that, what's the image is going to do? It's literally going to do exactly that. So the whole idea around this is, if you know it exists, then what are the things we can do to reduce the likelihood of it impeding in our results?
Any final thoughts? All right, let's cast our votes. You guys thought that it was just going to be a three-friendly little thing. You didn't know that I was going to add a little spin to it. Oh, I didn't know I had the results up there. It's fine.
Oh, because I gave my card. See?
Oh,
people
that
feel
was
sympathy. They
kind.
feel sympathy for me.
Do we like watching it as it's happening, or should I keep it secret? No? Turn it off?
That
The
makes more
anxious
sense. It makes more sense that the three people that answered it should get some points here. But Tom is still better than me.
All right, Alyssa, Soham. It's Ken, Soham, Alyssa. So Alyssa gets 1, Soham gets 2, and Ken gets
Try and stay at 0
3.
for the rest of the game.
What? The two surprise
Answer the
guests
worst
are,
answer possible
the
just so you
two
can stay at 0 now. I like this.
The two surprise guests are like kind of not dominating.
They're doing a
it.
great job.
Yeah. Okay. The next one may get a little controversial, may not. So yesterday's keynote shared that a shift in upcoming administration may impact the future of both technology and education. What are your thoughts of this, and or what are your concerns? So thoughts and or concerns.
So you had said technology or AI specifically?
You could do technology, AI, or education, any of it. It's up
So working out of DC, working with the U.S. Department of Education, certainly have a lot of thoughts on this. In a minute, won't cover it. I was down in DC last week having conversations on this topic. So if you want to talk AI specifically, that's in Vance's portfolio. My belief when we talk about AI, I think it's going to be the wild, wild west. I really believe there's going to be a lack of direction, like a lot of things with this administration. They're going to push back to states, and so we're going to look for state guidance on that. And so I believe AI specifically will be pushed to state guidance. You're going to have 50 different states trying to regulate different pieces, which becomes the wild, wild west and a lot of danger there. I think we'll see the removal, because it's being predicted and projected, of like the Office of Ed Tech, who I work closely with on a weekly basis, in places like that, which I also believe that challenges create opportunities. And say, I'm not saying that removal of those things is a good thing. I'm saying we've got to look at it in the lens of, if those things happen, it creates opportunities for places like NYSCATE to lead, because it's going to be a vacuum of leadership from places like OET that's going to be pushed out. So obstacles become opportunities, and so I would look at it with the lens of what we don't have anymore versus looking at, okay, if that's going to be the given area that we're in, what can we do to lead to get the kids the support that they need?
Another card, someone, anyone? Alyssa?
So absolutely agree with everything said. This question makes me incredibly thankful to be a teacher and an admin in New York. And whenever I talk to teachers and faculty about this, I keep us really grounded in the standards. In New York State, we have the SEL benchmarks. We have CDOS, we have ISTE standards, we have CCR standards, we have college and career readiness rooted in the culturally responsive and sustaining framework. So everything we do in schools, if it's grounded in those standards, I feel confident that I can stand in front of any teacher and have their back till the cows come home, forever, ever. So if a teacher is grappling with AI or technology in the way of cultural responsiveness or DEI work, it's always grounded in a standard. So no one's going to tell me it's not okay. And I'm really thankful for those standards as a vehicle to empower those teachers so that they can take risks regardless of that bigger picture.
I got it. Let me start out by saying that I believe that disruption in education is a good thing. And I think that whatever happens, we need some things to be shaken up a little bit. My worry is what Tom just said. I live in Texas. Y'all heard of Texas? And it worries me what's going to happen as a result of states having overall control. What I see in Texas is an administration that doesn't pay teachers since 2019. We haven't had a raise since then. They're trying to get a voucher system passed. They took over the Houston ISD and changed libraries and turned them into detention centers for what kind of kids? Largely our underserved community. And so what I see on that local level is going to result in what I think might be some sort of migrational pattern of people that feel education is a value moving to states where they value it, like New York, like Massachusetts, like Connecticut. My wife sent me a text 2 days ago that showed a listing of the top states, and she's like, why are we still in Texas? Y'all take me?
So I'll add another minute there. Competition is very, very real. In 2008 in Pennsylvania, where I'm at, we launched our own virtual charter school as a public school, because in Pennsylvania, the way the laws were written was we had to pay for children to go to virtual charter schools if they left us, to the tune of $12,000 or $24,000 a year. So we created our own program, taught by our own teachers, 2008, 2009. That was because of competition, right? That we can say about all the things about the struggles with competition, which I totally agree with. Look up today, alpha.school, and you will see an AI school, and I'm not saying I'm a fan of this, I'm saying this is coming. Alpha.school, they do quote unquote all of their academics in 2 hours, and they're claiming better results, and then the kids spend the rest of the day, and by the way, they're all in person, they spend the rest of the day creating companies, working on patents, which, wow, that's really, really appealing, but again, going back to the human side, and so like in the next 3 to 5, we're gonna see a lot of that coming down the pike, I really believe.
That school started in Austin, actually.
We were talking about that. We were just talking about that.
So I'm going to be the voice that points out that the more things change, the more they stay the same, or as I have in my book, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. What you're still going to see, regardless of who is in the administration at the federal level, and even in some cases the state level, is a continued growth in the disparity of access, period. That Alpha school, Tom told you, go look at the video, and go look at the demographics of the students. You go look at the mass proliferation of charter schools, and my way, even in California. A charter school in an economically resourced zip code is very, very different than a charter school in an economically under-resourced zip code. And so I think ultimately my thing with all of this is it bolsters the point that many of us on this stage and many of us have talked about, that education is truly a community, and we really, really do have to look out for each other and do it in a way that we galvanize a collective voice around what's important. Alyssa pointed to a lot of those things, because in the end, a lot of those that make decisions around policy are so far removed from what happens to students like Soham that it's just a complete disconnect.
Soham wants to go next.
Yeah, I want to echo that point. I think as a student, I have about 5-6 years before I enter the workforce, if I go to college, that is. And I am worried that by the time I'm in the workforce, that a lot of problems will be either automated away, a lot of intellectual work will have been automated away, and that will only happen by the increasing speed and acceleration of technology that we will see under the new administration. Like, we will see acceleration in AI, in Web3, in all different veins of technology. So what I'm worried about is, well, one, of course, our climate, our world, our country, in 5-6 years when I'm in the workforce, and if we're even gonna have the same systems we have today when it comes to education, when it comes to helping students grow and thrive. And I hope we do, but I'm unsure if that will be the case.
Anyone else?
Can I just say something not related to the question in particular?
Yeah.
It's just really powerful to hear my fellow panelists' language choices for me. A lot of the time when we talk about students who might be struggling, the language is so deficit-based and diphomistic, and everything that I'm hearing is so strength-based. It's just so inspiring and validating.
Why do you think these panels were picked?
Well, yeah, props, girl.
Yeah.
Nice choices.
Picked for a reason. Every single one of you.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Okay, let's vote.
As you're voting, I just got a tidbit of news that I will be, I've asked Linda McMahon's agent, this is true, that we can interview her on the Undisrupted podcast with Adam and Carl, the new Department of Education.
Wow.
Once she's confirmed, I said, she's confirmed. I'd like to hear what she has to say.
I
Do
would
you guys have
love-
any questions for her? I'll ask. Or...
Yeah.
He's just trying to get
Wrestling.
votes.
I knew it was going to come up. The wrestling move. Let's go.
And by the way, that podcast will be available on pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. On Netflix.
Live streamed.
Yeah. But I won't throw the fight.
All right. Wait, there's no... What? How? Oh, there we go. Any last one? Okay, it looks like Ken, Carl, oh, it's changing. All right. Oh. I'll give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I voted for Ken.
Ken, Carl, Soham. Soham gets 1.
So Alana was saying we were all chosen for a reason. I was going to bring up the bottom, so that was my goal, is just to stay at the bottom. That's why they chose me.
To be fair, I know I know Tom digitally. This was the first time we've ever met. I wanted to interview him for my podcast here, but I said, I need to listen to you speak first. I need to hear what you say because I think my interviews are best after I get to know someone. So I didn't get to lay up any questions for you specifically because we don't have, we have the digital banter, but every other person on this panel I know very, very, very well. Alyssa and Soham I've met with too many times every single week for the past 6 months in the TED program, but I loved every single one of those hours, so.
Alana, in all seriousness, for me, it's not about the points, it's about them getting the information that they need to hear, and so that's why I'll yield time to Ken, yield time to other folks that can display it in a way better than I can.
Look at that, such a good human being. Okay, next question, final question. Future of work, and Soham just touched upon this. As AI reshapes industries, how will it affect the career paths and college readiness of our students? And most importantly, how can we truly prepare them for a future where AI is integrated into nearly every aspect of life, ensuring that they thrive in an AI-driven world? So it's about preparing students for their future. Soham wants to start.
So I'm first going to make the assumption that we're talking about current large language models. We're not talking about any future technology. So let's first just make that assumption. Let's assume that every individual who's going into the workforce has some kind of LLM, co-pilot, or buddy. What that allows individuals to do is do intellectual labor, do tasks that require a lot more information much faster. And what I believe that causes is an increased focus on soft skills and communication prioritized at a younger age, prioritized in high school. And I think it's imperative that curriculum is changed to focus on helping students think about things beyond just academics, beyond just, I would say, informational skills. And I'll give a great example of that real quick. I think mentorship programs that connect seniors in high school with freshmen in high school, that allow for seniors in high school to take care of younger students, to learn interpersonal skills, to think beyond themselves, will be so important in developing communication and interpersonal skills that will become even more important in a world where everybody can do and everybody can work on informational skills.
And I'm just going to say, Soham actually does that through his Students for Innovation, and he mentors students in my district who he's never met before in his life. And they're little fourth graders, and their teacher came up to him at the conference and asked to take a picture to show the kids. So he really does that. He really does. Okay.
I'm just going to piggyback on what you were just talking about, and I think, I don't know how many of you saw Travis Allen earlier this week. He was from the Human Intelligence Movement. He talked about, there we go. He talked about there's an article that just came out in Forbes that 60% of Gen Z kids have been fired over the last year for a lot of the things that you were just talking about. And I just got this this graphic. It was about during job interviews from Gen Zs about recent college graduates. 53% of them struggle with eye contact. 50% ask for unreasonable compensation. But the 19% one that blows my mind is that 19% brought a parent to their interview. 21% refused to turn on their camera during a virtual interview. I think there's some soft skills that need to be gained. I think that we need to teach them AI. I think it falls on a lot of us in this room to do that because we're the ones that are going to show them hopefully the right way to use it. But we can't be the barriers to that. It used to be that it would take 7 disks to install Microsoft Word. Do you remember that? Some of you in this room are old enough? Now it should only take 7 letters, right? CHATGPT. Wait, was that 7 or 8? No, 7. Never do math in public.
All right, so let me be clear on one thing. Nobody, despite what some people say, nobody can predict the future, period. They might think they can, but they can't. What we've heard now is the following, and I think in my lifetime, one of the most consequential forms of legislation, again, going back to the administration, is No Child Left Behind, because it prioritized English and math at the expense of even things like relationships in schools. So when you think about the future of work, I'm taking the tech completely out of it at the moment. The question I always ask educators is, how are you supporting learners in self-efficacy, self-advocacy, and agency? Because once we do that, all the other things, to the point of skills. Skills are easily acquirable. Think about us as educators. How many skills have we acquired in the last year, 2, 3, I'll even go back to COVID, that we weren't taught in school? In fact, many of us have been successful despite school, not because of school. The future of work if we want to look at it that way, it's the human element has to be centered first, no matter what. AI may be a part of it, but in the end, again, AI cannot replace, nor should it replace, many of the things that we do. You can't have AI do this interview, okay?
Not
So,
yet.
yeah, thank you.
So from a federal end, we're working on policy around pathways and at the state level as well. And I think some of the in my opinion, best redesign that I'm seeing across the country is in pathways. When you take a look at, you could look at the linked learning out in California. First 2 years of high school, they do kind of their gen ed, almost as college feel. And then junior and senior year, they're working in the workforce, thinking of things that they love. Bottom line is, how do we maximize the interests, the passions, and the strengths of our kids so that they can live life on their own terms? And so with that, giving kids opportunities for real work-based, I think going back to the No Child Left Behind, it was kind of like, oh, you don't fit here, you should go over to the CTE building. You ever pay a plumber on a Saturday? They're doing pretty darn well. And by the way, how much student debt do they have? Probably none, right? And so we look at, there's a lot of facets to getting kids interested and not locking them in and saying you have to fit over here, but finding ways to say, here's your interests, your passions, and your strengths, and their ability to find pathways. One great tool for that is the RIASEC framework is being used, helping kids understand who they are. So A in RIASEC is the artistic, and so helping kids understand, by the way, my time started over if you notice. And so with that, the A is artistic, so like in kindergarten and first grade, kids are seeing then, okay, people that are artistic do these types of jobs so that we can show kids what they might not see at home in the world of work so that they realize they can fit there.
Agree, 100%. I immediately, when I think about this, I think about curriculum, because that's my gig. And whenever we talk about curriculum, people talk about resources. I don't want to talk about resources. I don't want to talk about bells and whistles. I want to talk about, what do you want kids to know? What do you want them to do? What's the best vehicle to get them to know and do that thing? Right now, in education, teachers are grieving. They're grieving the way things were. They're grieving what it was like to teach 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And students absolutely deserve every nuance of accessibility and certainty and engagement. This question completely hinges upon the teachers. In order for this to be a thing that kids experience, teachers have to be ready for it. Teachers are really struggling with the grapple of my course, my certification might not matter anymore. Who am I? And you got teachers in every school I visit that say, I am not a social worker, I teach math. So yes, we have to teach soft skills, hidden curriculum, SEL work, but we have to teach the teachers how before we expect the kids to know how.
Last, you want to cash it in or no? Okay. Last remark.
It really makes me proud that there are so many educators here today that are willing to look after students in a way that a lot of students don't think teachers and educators and administrators are. I want to make one point that if we can find a way to eliminate adversarial relations between students and teachers in the classroom, a lot of the work that we're talking about here will fall into place. Because first and foremost, like, I'm not one of these students, but a lot of students see teachers, see administrators as the enemy, and it's really hard for a student to get unstuck out of that mindset. So I think if we can continue to try to work on this, build systems for student-teacher communication, and we break out of that adversarial mindset, I think students will love learning and enjoy being a part of their classrooms.
Okay, cast your final votes. So while we're waiting, do you want to pitch your conference you're working on?
Yeah, so in the notion of student empowerment, I'm trying to run a conference by students for educators, so like flipping the whole idea of a conference on its head. In the spring, on April 25th and 26th, in the UN's, I think it's International Day of Creativity.
Yeah, it's not associated with the UN, but we're aligning it with that.
So, yeah, we're looking for more educators and teachers who would be interested in hearing the student opinion, student voice. And if you're interested, you can, I think, go to studentsforinnovation.org and put your email in.
And some of the mentors you may see on the stage right now, just saying. Look at the responses. Soham, Carl, Alyssa. Let's give your final points. Alyssa, Carl, Soham. Whoa, look at that. Look.
This is Alyssa, this is Alana bias, I think, because Tom, you're the only person you've never had on your podcast. No.
Yeah, it might be a bias. I didn't mean it. Okay, so it looks like Soham, you won. Congratulations.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Nice
You
job.
get $20 in casino credit you can spend in 6 years. No.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Ken and I will be back on the stage in 1 hour from now, and Soham will be opening for the ending keynote, so check him out then. And that's all we have for you for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking forward to bringing you a couple new episodes after the conference. Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Generative Age, powered by NYSCATE. For a deeper dive, check out my new book titled, How'd You Guess? The Generative Age, now available on Amazon.
Our journey may pause here, but the conversation doesn't need to end.
Stay connected and informed by following me on social media at Alana Winnick and subscribing to my newsletter, all conveniently accessible on my website, alanawinnick.com.
Don't just listen, be a part of it. With your free NYSCATE membership, you can join these live discussions, enroll in our free Generative Age NYSCATE community, where you can share resources, ask questions, and collaborate with like-minded colleagues. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider leaving a review and telling a colleague or a friend.
We've got so much more in store, so be sure to join us next time for another exciting conversation. Until then, keep learning and keep growing in the generative age.